Welcome to the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Panay, Romblon, and Guimaras, a virtual commemoration. But to give his message on this very historical day, here is Tigbauan Administrator Undersecretary Ernesto G. Carolina.
Magandang araw sa ating lahat. Today marks the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Panay, Romblon, and Guimaras. The liberation of these islands is a celebrated milestone for our veterans, as it is considered as one of the most successful guerrilla-led liberation campaigns in the country. With a force of 23,000 guerrillas, the 6th Military District, under the command of Colonel Macario Peralta Jr., led the liberation of the islands of Panay, Guimaras, and Romblon, also known as the Free Panay Guerrilla Forces. They battled it out with the Japanese forces for a month, from February 6, 1945, up to the liberation of Iloilo City on March 20 of the same year. As the Japanese forces were mainly concentrated in Iloilo City, the guerrilla forces launched the final assault on the Japanese Imperial Army in Tigbauan, Iloilo, together with the Allied forces and with the support of the civilian volunteers and the political leadership of Governor Tomas Confessor. The Free Panay Guerrilla Forces defeated the Japanese forces in Panay. The liberation of Panay, Guimaras, and Romblon was made possible because of the cooperation between the civil government and the Panay guerrilla forces. This partnership contributed to the success of the resistance movement and clearly proved how collaboration and unity in times of adversity could lead to victory. The Free Panay Guerrilla Forces displayed admirable honor, gallantry, and love of country. The dangers and terrors of the war were nothing compared to their resolve to free their country from the clutches of the invaders. May the values personified by our veterans be imbibed in all of us today as we face together another battle of unprecedented scale, the COVID-19 pandemic. May we take inspiration from our veterans to persevere and carry on until we defeat this virus and bounce back higher than before. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang mga veterano.
Thank you, Yusek Carolina. Up next is the National Historical Commission of the Philippines Executive Director, Restituto L. Aguilar. He is here to take us back to the time when Iloilo Province had one of the most successful resistance movement. An audiovisual presentation will immediately follow after.
Colonel Macario Peralta, together with Lieutenant Leopoldo Relunia, Captain Julian Chavez, and Captain Francisco Offemaria, with the freedom fighters, then organized the Free Panay Guerrilla Force and crafted a plan for the island-wide resistance. They launched the final assault on the Japanese occupation forces in Tigbauan, Iloilo. After 2 weeks of bombardment on Japanese positions, the 40th Infantry Division, led by the 185th Infantry Regiment, landed without opposition at Parara, Tigbauan, Iloilo, due to the prior operations of the guerrillas against the occupation forces. Within 2 days after the landing, the combined Filipino guerrillas and American forces easily swept the Japanese outpost in Iloilo City. The islands of Guimaras and Inampulagan were also freed on the same day signaling the end of the Second World War in Panay Island. March 18, 1945 is a historic and significant day in the islands of Panay, Romblon, and Guimaras. Iloilo province had one of the most successful resistance movements due to the joint efforts of Colonel Macario Peralta and Governor Tomas Confessor. The cooperation between the civil government and the Free Panay Guerrilla Force proved to be a triumph of its own as it led to the overwhelming support of the civilians. For civilians during that time, the partnership between the local government and the guerrilla force was a drop of rain after a long drought. It then resulted in the growth of the resistance movement. This account proves how strong cooperation could strategically lead the Free Panay Guerrilla Force and the local government of Panay in securing freedom for the island and its people. Their strong partnership paved the way for a swift, effective, and successful resistance. Today, 76 years after the victory was won from the Japanese invaders during World War II, the people of Panay, Romblon, and Guimaras lovingly honor and remember the bravery and sacrifices of the Panay guerrillas who fought in the name of freedom and democracy.
Now here's the message of the Iloilo Governor, Honorable Arthur R. Defensor Jr.
My sincerest greetings to all our war veterans in the celebration of the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Panay, Guimaras, and Romblon. Today we are once again commemorating the gallantry and patriotism of Filipino soldiers who, with the Allied forces during the World War II, risked and lost their lives for the freedom we are enjoying today. We dedicate this day to honor the heroism and sacrifices of our veterans. Because of their selfless service and patriotism, we have regained our liberty. As we commemorate and pay special tribute to our veterans, may this serve as inspiration for us to strengthen our sense of patriotism and love for our country. The hardship and sacrifices of our war veterans should not be in vain. Let us remember them all and pledge to always strive to uphold the freedom and unity they fought for. Rest assured, the Iloilo Provincial Government will always be supportive of the programs and activities in honor of our veterans.
Also here to give us his message is VFP Region 6 President, Veteran Hannibal S. Lepardo.
Greetings to all LGOs and Ilonggos of Panay, Capiz, Romblon, and Guimaras, including the cities of Iloilo, Pasig, and Rua City. To the Secretary Lorenzana, Tigbauan Administrator Misty Carolina, BAP President Pobri, ABP Romy Alamillo, members of the Executive Board, fellow veterans, mayong aga! Today, March 18, is our day. The 76th anniversary of the liberation and victory of Panay. We celebrate with pride the triumph of the Ilonggos in conquering the enemy and setting us free from the cruelty, abuse, and subjugation of the foreign invader. Today is not only the victory day for Panay, but most importantly, this is the Ilonggo Day. For we commemorate not only the bravery and heroism of our forebears, but we proudly show to the world the admirable traits of the Ilonggos. We refresh our memory and recall the event of this day. The 23,000 strong Ilonggo guerrilla force in Panay, including my late father, Corporal Adriano H. Lepardo Sr., superbly led by the famous General Macario Peralta, an Ilocano but Ilonggo by heart, that has hastened the defeat of the enemy by preparing the way for the landing of allied American forces. The Americans called the Ilonggo guerrillas as their brown brothers because they never expected that midgets like us, compared to their sizes, can perform giant accomplishments like sabotaging enemy efforts, rebuilding bridges to facilitate fast movements of allied force, feeding allies with vital information and intelligence, securing control points, and destroying enemy strongholds. Thus, liberating Panay proved to be a very big victory, with 1,500 surrendered, 4,000 enemies killed, and 3,300 enemies dying due to starvation and diseases, compared to our slight loss of only 390 killed and 1,025 wounded. American pilot Lieutenant Charles Stewart of the advancing 185th Regiment was greatly surprised as he flew over Iloilo on a reconnaissance and intelligence mission to see a group of Ilonggo guerrillas waving their hands, pointing to him the big signs along the beach, which read, "The Japs have fled and we're gone." What a thrilling experience it must have been for the brave Ilonggo guerrillas, our forebears, our parents, our grandparents, to accomplish the fate of making the enemy run for their lives before the Allied forces set forth on our beaches in Panay. The hearts of these Ilonggo fighters must be bursting with pride as they point to the American pilot, Lieutenant Charles Stewart, that they made the enemy run away. Also, we present the veterans and sons and daughters, the offspring of these brave Ilonggos, our hearts too are bursting with pride because we celebrate today not only the victory of Panay, but also the traits and character of the Ilonggo persone. We are kind and loving because we see, totoo, palangga tagid ikaw, pero kung magsala ka, maigo kagid sa akon. We are resilient because we persevere. We are tenacious and fight to the end. And when provoked, most of all, we are known for our first loyalty. During the early days of the war in Mindanao in 1973, Who would ever think that Central Mindanao Commander, General Fortunato Abad, would prefer and choose an Ilonggo unit, the 3rd Platoon of 2nd Company, 12 Infantry Battalion, under Dean 2nd Lieutenant Magdaloyo, to be his security detail at Central Mindanao Command Headquarters in Cotabato. General Abad also chose an Ilonggo Captain, Bertie Gloria from Tapas, Capiz, to be his aide-de-camp during the difficulties of the war in Mindanao. Even I myself, yours truly, a mere first lieutenant, during the time, have chosen Ilonggos to secure me and my troops as we restore electric power in the war-torn area of Marawi in 1972 to 1974. It is the strength of character inherited as legacy from our parents, who were the war heroes of the liberations of Panay, that made us strong and determined to survive and excel despite numerous calamitous events and earth-shaking disasters that have threatened our country. That is why, despite the COVID crisis today, the provinces covered by Presidential Proclamation number 430 of 1989, declaring March 18 as Liberation and Victory Day for Panay, Romblon, and Guimaras, continue to flourish and prosper. Today, March 18, as we reflect on the courage, bravery, and determination of our Ilonggo guerrillas to drive away the enemy from our shores, we offer to you, our beloved parents, grandparents, and relatives, all heroes of Panay Liberation, our deepest thanks and gratitude for all your sacrifices. We thank you for the legacy that you have left us, the strength of character that made us survive and excel. We thank you for the blood of heroes that ran in our veins as your offsprings and children. And today we raise our hands to you in salute and greet you. Mabuhay all heroes of the liberation of Panay. Mabuhay ang mga bitiran. Maraming salamat po.
Last but not the least, for his inspirational message, here's Iloilo City Mayor Jeronimo Jerry P. Treñas.
Today, March 18, we commemorate the heroic accomplishments of our veterans in the 76th anniversary of the liberation of Panay, Guimaras, and Romblon. The same day in 1945 is of great historical and sentimental significance to both the veterans and the people, because it was the day when the Panay Guerrilla Forces launched the final assault on the Japanese Imperial Armed Forces. Iloilo was where the country had the most successful resistance movement during the war against the Japanese. And this is something we can be truly proud of as Ilonggos. Our movements and initiatives here in Iloilo became successful because of strong political leadership and support from the ordinary people. Nagahugpong kita sa aton nga mga kausa para sa aton syudad. Through our collaborative efforts, it seems impossible for us not to achieve our goals for the greater good of the people. It is the same courage and bravery that made us victorious 76 years ago that will help us achieve great things, most especially in this most challenging time. For as long as we have these prevailing virtues in us, we will continue to create a mark in history as Ilonggos. May this liberation of Panay anniversary remind us, especially the young ones, of our patriotism and our love for our country. Thank you very much, and may God bless us all.
And that concludes our short virtual commemoration for today. This has been Felicia Lois Lania. Thank you very much for joining us.